The Flash Season 3, Episode 18, Abra Kadabra. Now this episode leads to a very interesting ending after we have a bunch of chaotic stuff going down. We end up finding a villain that is from the 64th century or something crazy like that. So he's from the very, very far future with no real explanation as to how he ended up in the past either. They didn't really go through that, but I guess he went back in time from... I guess he's from Earth. It's really hard to tell because he was on Earth 19, I think that's where Gypsy's from. So he came back in time on Earth 1, and then he jumped into another dimension to mess with that time period, like a long time ago, apparently before Gypsy was even on the show. He ended up killing her boyfriend, and then he jumped over to Earth 1, but he just felt like, I guess the technology was just that good, he had to jump all over the place. So we get a lot of different industries in here. We get Stag Industries, Cord Industries, so that was really cool. Stag, I believe, my girlfriend mentioned this to me, she believed that they made like Metamorpho, the character. Cord, Ted Cord, that's Blue Beetle, or one of the versions of Blue Beetle. So that was pretty cool, they referenced those companies. And seeing this character with his technology, you know, it starts off where it seems to be that he's actually magic based. He even calls himself Abra Kadabra. And we find out that the technology is, you know, of course with it being 64th century technology, it's so advanced that it appears to be magic. So he can teleport, he can, you know, basically create holograms seemingly out of nothing. He can basically change matter. Like he changed Joe's gun when he was pointing at him, and he changed it into a water gun. So that was probably one of my favorite parts, just because it wasn't something he was holding on to. It was like this was a different character standing in front of him. He didn't create an explosion or a gust of wind or anything like that. He wasn't near them, and then he swapped places with them, which that was also impressive in the beginning with the two guards. He did technically like swap places with them, so that was kind of cool too. But like he has a gun pointed at him, and he basically just kind of snapped his finger or like pointed at him or something, and then the gun is just poof, just water starts coming out. And I just thought that was really cool. But he has all this technologies, nanotechnology, which they still don't figure out the exact components of it. But his technology is so advanced, it seems like he's doing magic. So he was a pretty cool villain for the episode. We got to see some pretty good work as far as superpowers. We got to see Barry run a lot. We got to see Wally run quite a bit. We got to see both Gypsy and Cisco use their abilities. And we got a pretty epic ending sequence where they were chasing him all over the city, and Barry had to run up that building. And he runs up the building, and he was going too slow, and then he got like the lightning in his eyes, so he was like supercharged. And when he ran up the building, then he jumps off and grabs the guy, and then phases them both through the entire ship as it shoots off into the future. And then he still has them in the past, and or in the present, I should say. So that was a really great ending sequence with the little chase and seeing the characters run around and stuff. Really loved that. I thought it was just a great way to do it. There's some really good character dynamics in this episode. I really loved the moment with Joe and Gypsy when they were arguing with each other, because they're both dealing with the emotion of losing someone. And of course in Gypsy's case, she already saw it happen. She may not have specifically been there, but of course she knows who was responsible for it. So not only is Abra Kadabra the mass murderer with everything he's done stealing this technology so that he could go back to his time, but he also killed the person that, you know, she had feelings for. So she already lost the person that she's trying to get revenge for. And then of course with Joe, he's trying to avoid losing the person that he cares so much about in the future. And I just love that scene after, you know, Kadabra actually ends up getting out, and they have that really good argument. And I just love that sequence. And it was really obvious. It was like, you know, obviously, you know, before Cisco, you know, he couldn't figure it out, but it was really obvious. It was like the reason she's so upset is that, of course, Kadabra actually killed someone that she cared about. And that's why she was being kind of distant with Cisco in this episode, because she was, you know, all she could really think about was getting revenge for the last person that she cared about. So it kind of messed with their current relationship, and we don't really know where it ends, because she even asked him, and he's kind of just like, I don't really know. Like, you know, we had a chance. And who knows, maybe we were going to get the true answer to Savitar. I knew we weren't actually going to get it, especially with him going like, okay. And every time he said a word, he paused. I'm like, obviously, Gypsy's going to get there in time. She can open up portals and show up wherever she wants. Obviously, we're not going to get the actual answer, because she's going to show up before he's able to say anything. So sadly, we don't end up getting that answer, but Barry does end up capturing him and does allow him to be taken by Gypsy. And they had a great sequence at the end there as well, where Barry tried to do the superhero thing. And this reminded me of a recent episode of Arrow, where they recruited slight spoiler, I guess, if you're really far behind, but they recruited a new person. I'll just say it that way. And so Oliver was trying to do like the hero speech, like, oh, don't do this bad thing, like this, you can be good, and this is what you want. And that person didn't listen to him, was like, screw that, and they killed the person that they were trying to kill. The whole episode, they didn't do the hero thing. It was like, no, F that, and they killed the person in front of them. And then this was kind of the same thing, where Barry was trying to talk to the villain. He's like, that part inside of you that has a family and stuff, that's who I'm asking, who I'm begging to help me save the woman I love. And then Kadabra was like, man, I used to be so jealous of Savitar because he took the one thing from you that like really broke you. Like, I may have defeated you or we may have beaten you here and there, but he really broke you. And now I get to feel like I'm a part of that. And I was like, dang, that's a super evil thing to say like that. That was a great villain moment for him, even though of course he went off to die, but he knew he was dying anyway. So it was like, now I get to feel like I killed her too. And that's, thanks. Like, I gotta go die, but thanks for helping me get that little last minute happiness. And I was just like, wow, that's a cool way to end off a villain. Even if he wasn't that big of a villain, that was just a great little moment where he's just like, man, I was so jealous. They also reference another character because he mentioned a bunch of speedsters, and then they mentioned someone that I'm not too familiar with, who is DeVoe, which made me think of Belle Biv DeVoe. But I don't know if that's another speedster or which character that is. I'm actually quite familiar with most of the speedsters, so to not know that one, it has me wondering if it's even a speedster, because I know a lot of speedsters, Impulse and all that stuff. So I can't think of who. I may have heard that name. I'm sure there are so many speedsters, as you can probably imagine, from Earth 1 to Earth 2 and all that other stuff. Future speedsters, everything. But I just can't recall the name DeVoe. So I don't remember if that's another speedster, but that could end up being the next villain that we actually have. They mentioned, there's an article that went around, the next season will not have a speedster villain. So happy for that, if I'm being totally honest. I was getting real tired of constantly having speedster villains, and we just, they could just have good villains. I mean, they've done it before. That's how we had, like, the Rogues Gallery with Snart and Mick and Golden Glider. We have characters that don't have super speed that are still able to pose a challenge to Barry and the team. Even if Barry has, Wally helping him out, they could have 2 speedsters. They could even have 3 speedsters. If you have enough villains, you can still make it a challenge. And none of those villains have to be speedsters. So it's just really, I'm really excited for that. And I believe with him kind of listing off characters, most of which we've seen, and then having that one name thrown in there as DeVoe, who we haven't seen in this series, I'm hoping that that's the character that they're referencing. Otherwise, it's just like a random thing that they reference, just another character in the universe. If it's not like heavy foreshadowing for the next season, it's just a reference to a big, Flash villain. But I feel like, considering all the characters were, really big speedster characters, I assume that this is going to end up being, the same sort of thing. Because Zoom is a character that was from the past, or different Earth, actually. So, Zoom is from a different Earth. Obviously, Thawne was from the future, that sort of thing. It's just famous, villains that went up against the Flash. So, I'm hoping that that's some pretty epic early foreshadowing for who the next villain is going to be next season. Could be wrong, and it could just be that cool reference. But I thought it was interesting. They named all the main villains, and then just a character we've never heard of. And I was like, I wonder if that's going to be the next, big villain. Possibly from the future, possibly from the present, or an alternate timeline. Who the F knows? But I was like, okay, that's cool. Might be foreshadowing. Could just be a reference. But that was a great ending segment. And of course, we have what I was really, really hoping we were finally going to see. Because this whole episode, I was like, okay, we have a villain that has come from the future. He has the ultimate answer to help them save Iris. Who is Savitar? What, this ultimate piece of information can help us find this person in the present before they're technically created. And we can take this person down. And in order to do that, you might just have to jump forward in time. Like, I thought that, honestly, I think that came to me like halfway through this episode. I was just like, I wish he would just go into the future. Like, I know that's difficult. Like, it's easier for him to go back in time than forward. But I was just like, at some point, he needs to just wise the F up and just run forward in time and figure some crap out. And it got to that ending, and he's like, the reason that they've always been able to beat us is because they were one step ahead. And I was like, I think I know where this is headed. And it's like, it's because everything we plan to do to them is history. And I was like, this is going where I think it's going. And he's like, I have to go to the future because that's where the answer lies. And I was so happy to finally see that. I was like, thank goodness he just finally realized I just have to jump forward in time to get the actual answer. So looking forward to however they plan on doing that. That should be pretty good. And then we get the longest extra, sequence that we've ever had, because it's like they finished the main story, and so of course we have Caitlin, who was injured in this episode. She gets impaled, and so they reference it earlier in the episode. If we take your necklace off, your powers will allow you to heal, and she would rather die. And of course, they're going through is like everything seems fine. It's like, okay. HR, which I love that they kind of talked about this, the fact that he was gone the whole episode, because I mentioned that to my girlfriend while we were watching. It was like, Wally didn't really say that much. I think he had like 1 or 2 lines in the whole episode, but he was in a bunch of the shots. He just didn't say anything, which was weird. So she mentioned that, and then I mentioned like HR's been missing this whole time. Like, he's just not there. So I love the fact that he came in at the end of the episode, and it was like, where have you been this whole time? And so it was kind of funny that they did it that way. And so, he's there at the end and stuff, and it's Cisco and Caitlin going back and forth. And then Caitlin ends up having a seizure. And so she's having a seizure, and they mentioned that she might have a blood clot. So she dies. Like, she's there, she's dead. Just enough life in her for Julian to rip her necklace off, and it activates her powers, and it actually heals her. And then they have a cool sequence where, of course, she becomes Killer Frost. But the way they did it was really sweet, because I didn't think it was going to be that way. I didn't know she could do like an explosive ice wave. That was really cool. And they're like, Caitlin, and she just went like boom, and everybody like flies backwards. For a second, I legitimately thought she turned into smoke, because I was like, holy crap, there's just smoke around her. And then of course she walks out of it, and of course she has the white hair, the blue eyes, and she is Killer Frost officially. So that's unfortunate, and we'll see where it's headed. Sadly, for whatever reason, we have to wait like a full month before we can get any more story. I don't know what the deal is with that, but Supergirl did the same thing, and it was like a full month break, and I was like, what in the world is going on? So, for whatever reason, we gotta wait a super long time. Next week is the season finale for Legends of Tomorrow, so that should be pretty cool. Also, iZombie comes back. That's a great show if you guys haven't watched it. I'm pretty sure this is season 3. That is a phenomenal show. That is technically also a DC comic show. It's Vertigo Comics, but it's owned by DC Comics. So technically, that is a DC comic show as well, if you guys are interested and you haven't seen it. Really, really funny show. It's really, really good. So check it out if you haven't already. But just thought I'd reference that since it's coming on, next season's coming back and I do reviews for it. Really funny show. Really, really good. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next episode, even though we do have to wait forever. I'm very curious what we're going to get in the future. I thought maybe at one point when Barry was chasing him down, I was like, what if he stopped him, but Barry got flung into the future and he had to find his way back in time, and that's how he got his answer. But I was like, no, they won't do that, because then they'd have to make an entire future, because that plane is so loud. And every time I think of the future always looks exactly the same in the DC universe. Everything is always the same. It's like pillar buildings. Like, that's how it's almost like the Jetsons. Every time I've ever seen the future in anything related to the DC universe, when they do it in animation at least, outside of comics where they can actually do different stuff, every time it's in animation, it's always like, here's a building floating over here, or it's just like really, really tall buildings all over the place. I don't know why that popped into my head, but that's what made me think of it, because like every time they show the future, it's always the same sort of thing, where it's like giant pillar, it's like everything's a skyscraper. That's kind of how everything looks, and everything is like way, way above the ground, a lot like the Jetsons. No, like they'd have to do so much to make that sort of future. And of course they can change it. They can just have actual normal buildings. They don't have to do that, like the DC future that I'm always seeing in the animated shows. But I was like, they won't go to the future in here, because they would have to make all new sets. Everything would have to be so incredibly different. And I'm hoping that that's how it plays out. And I hope we get to see a big chunk of the future. I hope it's not just like Barry ran into the future for like 5 minutes of the episode and he's like, I got it, and then that's the rest of the episode. I really do hope that, if not the whole episode, at least, 70% of the episode or something is Barry in the future, getting certain answers. But I also doubt that that'll be the case, because there are just way too many answers that he could figure out from that. So we'll see how they decide to play around with the idea once the show actually comes back. But of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I definitely want to know, what do you guys want to see from Barry going into the future? I personally, I want to see some references. I want to see like, I want to see the Flash Museum. I definitely want to see that, because they kind of referenced that in the beginning of season 2 with Flash Day, where he got like, I think he got a medal, and I believe they had a statue. And I think they did that as well on like Earth 2 or something like that. They've shown it before somewhere in the show that there was like a Flash Museum, and it was actually, I think it was in the season 1 finale or season 2 finale, when Barry was going through time, and that's when they first showed that Supergirl was going to be in the same universe. I think they did show the Flash Museum, so I think that's what we're finally going to see, is that part, because I don't think they've used that clip yet. So we're going to see the Flash Museum, I would assume. Maybe we'll get some references to other heroes as well, because of course you have the entire Justice League, and with it being the future, they could keep it simple, because the Flash does have his own museum, so they could keep it simple like that, where he's only in that specific city, and you know, it's his hometown, so it's only the Flash Museum, and then maybe some very, very subtle references to certain other characters. They probably do some stuff, of course, to like, for like the legends, and obviously some references maybe to Supergirl. That would be kind of cool, where it's like, you know, this Supergirl is from a different Earth, but we honor her here, or something like that. I think would be cool. But they'll probably reference the other DC shows. I think that would be nice. But I really want to see the Flash Museum. I would love it if they did it. I don't know if it's a little early for that, or what the case may be. Would love to see the Legion of Superheroes. That's just a big part of the DC universe. They seem to be the only characters in any medium that don't give a crap about time travel. They're always jumping back and forth through time, like, hey, we're from like the year 3000, all this sorts of crazy stuff. They're always going into the past, doing something. So I would love to see them if they wanted to do that in the future. But that's what I personally want to see. I would love to see, you know, those references in the Flash Museum, Legion of Superheroes, references to other heroes, maybe some we haven't even gotten in this, you know, universe just yet. But we'd love to know what you guys want to see from the future whenever they end up deciding to do it in the Flash. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.